Hello and welcome back to the Tokyo Wave 2 Area 1 Championships. This is going to be the top 4 round of this tournament. We've had the top 8 previously, going to be moving into the top 4. Looking at the meta share now, looks like Doflamingo going to be 2, probably not surprising to anyone. And then the other 2 decks advancing in this tournament, Enel and Teach. We know what the matchup is in this video with Enel and Doflamingo, and we saw, I believe, this exact Enel player in the tournament previously against Marshall D. Teach kind of have a masterclass of how to approach that bad matchup as the Enel. So it's going to be curious to see how the Enel continues forward in this game against arguably the best deck in format. Before we talk about the leaders and the game itself, let's get a word from our sponsor real quick. Thank you so much to Nen Garden for sponsoring this video. I'm sure you've heard of Nen Garden before and maybe seen some of their designs on different social medias. Their Gear 5 one, arguably their most notable design. I love this one. If you're preparing for OP09, they have plenty of designs to match your favorite decks, including their new Joker design, right, in 2 different variants of full color and this sleek black and white, as well as a beautiful new red-haired playmat and their stained glass 4 Emperor's mat. They've also got plenty of playmats of other mainstream series that you know and love, including Don, a great one as of late, Chainsaw Man, my personal favorite, of course. They've got a huge deal right now where they are giving 25% off with this code HOLIDAY25, and you can save 5% off on your order if you use my code Atrocious. Combining those 2 codes together saves you 30% off during this holiday season. Use that Christmas money, especially while there's a discount on those prices, and make sure you don't miss a beat. All right, so Enel having that survivability effect right on opponent's turn once per turn. When you hit 0 life, you can trash a card from hand and gain a life from the top of your deck. Now, you do have to gain the life first and then trash a card just for correct sequencing reasons, but Doflamingo, you know its leader effect. If you don't, Dawn ×2 when attacking, rest 1 more Dawn. Flip over the top card. If it's a 4 cost or less 7 Warlords of the Sea type character, you can play it in the field as rested. All the way back from OP01, has a resurgence in the last couple sets. And apologies for not getting these tournament videos out sooner. I was on that Gundam trip. If you saw the other tournament videos, right, I was at the Gundam World Premiere in Houston. And then after that, I got really sick. So there was a little bit of a pause and it was kind of hard to do the videos, but now we're back in these, getting these done. Here's the Enel's hand. I don't know if he kept this or he mulliganed for it, but either way, doesn't look to be too bad with a 2K Frankie in there. 2-drop Shirahoshi, a card that I've been hounding on as a great one to get as of late. The 5-drop Nami in hand, 0 cost event. You're the one that should disappear. And then what looks like, I believe, a 10-drop secret rare ace. So not a bad hand, I think, especially in kind of the early game. The Shirahoshi is a little weird, though, because 4 drops, very easy to get rid of for Doflamingo in this format. But do you want to spend that 4-drop bumping out in this matchup, in this game, on a little 2-drop blocker? The Doflamingo, though, has a 2K Crocodile and Buggy in hand, 2 2K Crocodiles. Actually, a Weevil and a Jozu. So if they decided to keep this hand, they will be able to do a little bit of reordering, right, with that Buggy and then get that right back potentially with the Jozu later in the game. Jozu probably doing a lot of great stuff in this, right? Enel maybe not really playing stuff in the early game so much, but does have pretty good 5 drops in this deck that they want to play, and so being able to bounce that back could be very nice. But we move into this. The Enel is going first, is just going to pass. Nothing to play on a 1-drop turn, very typical for the deck. And now Doflamingo going to, does not find a Teach, but does find a Sengoku off that top deck. So when you have top deck and reordering that you want to do, you go ahead, play the Sengoku first, find a piece of the puzzle that you can get. Finds plenty of Warlord cards, finds another 4-drop Crocodile and 2 Trafalgar Law 4 drops, right? That's that 2K. So actually not super great. Might be you wanting to grab the Marshall D Teach, right? Teach, a great card to have in the Doflamingo decks, does really well for you, but is maybe thinking of just getting the 2K counter now, right? Just trying to build it up and maybe do a little bit of control in the Enel player's hand, right? That 2K law does have an effect, being able to force your opponent to put a card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. We'll see if they use it, and ends off the turn with the Doflamingo, like I mentioned. The Doflamingo, or with the Buggy, I'm sorry. The Buggy is going to be very nice because Buggy is going to be able to reorder. You're going to be able to determine what you draw for turn, be able to determine what you play off of the leader effect, right, on a 4-Dawn turn. So is going to be looking around for either the Gecko or the Law. Is going to potentially be grabbing, oh no, I'm sorry, it's just reordering. Ooh, so a little bit of accidental information there. Both him and I forgot that we were doing Buggy plays, right, not Sengoku plays. So is just going to reorder, is going to think about what they want to top deck at least on this, and then with the on play is thinking about, looked like it went Law, Gecko, and then Jozu, and I do not mind the Gecko play honestly, but ooh, interesting. So top decking the Doreshi, I was gonna say, could be very common for this Enel to just kind of jam at face and you have to spend a 2K. So the Gecko is real easy to get a 2K back. Doreshi, a very interesting card. We saw this in the deck list, at least. We do have deck lists for both players that we'll show in the video. Doreshi, a great card to be able to find 2 cards with a trigger. So you saw that electromagnetic cannon and the 0 cost event come into hand. Is an excellent card to be able to find excellent plays, and so is going to go ahead, hard play that Weevil on the 4-Dawn turn, just draw the cards that they wanted on that stack, and now has a Jozu that they're going to top deck for the turn. And so passing it off after taking that life, right, does find, I believe, a 2K X-Drake, which we saw was very, very good in the Blackbeard match, but not very much going to be used here. Is going to go ahead, play the Nami, and pop that Weevil. One thing that Enel is going to try to do is starve out the Doflamingo, right? Is not really going to swing at life until Doflamingo, not really having any cards in hand, is just going to focus on the board, and with that swing on the Doflamingo is going to take that 9-drop Yamato. Jozu going to be able to put back that Nami and put it into hand. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because Nami now could be played down yet again and pop another character, but on a 7-Dawn turn, you might really not have anything else that you want to do. You may have to pitch a card with trigger on it, right, in order to be able to use that Nami effect. And what do you use that for? Just to be able to get that Buggy out of the way? It's not necessarily reasonable, I would say. And just decides to play the Shirahoshi and pass the turn off to the Doflamingo. The Doflamingo, after establishing that Jozu, they have another one in hand, could play that to get the Buggy back, right? Keep this Buggy alive, have an extra 2K in hand. I wouldn't mind that play. You're just establishing bigger bodies that they can't really get rid of at this point. You're sitting on an 8-Dawn turn, I believe, right now, so does have a Marshall D Teach. You could also play down along with it, but you can't play Jozu and use leader effect at the same time. So you may go in after taking this life right here, go in with another Jozu, pick up that Buggy, maybe go in with like Sengoku, try to find something of the sort. Is thinking about resting 4 instead, maybe 2 4-drops, is going to grab Weevil, maybe play that guy down in order to go ahead and draw a card. Is going to do exactly that. Does find another Jinbei. Ooh, Jinbei is going to be very nice to be able to swarm the board a little bit. But now on a 9-Dawn, it is going to be there with Yamato. Yamato, because the Doflamingo still at 5 life, is going to be able to pop that Jozu. So very, very good job. One of, again, the reasons that you want to hold on for the Enel and not swing at life, just control the board in a sense. Now is going to have to play a little bit of defense on the swings. Can expect maybe 3 swings to come in with the Weevil, Gecko, and Doflamingo leader. We'll see what they want to do, especially now with the Jinbei on the hand. Jinbei, not exactly a ton of great targets to be able to play down. I would say the best one maybe is the Law, but the Law, you can't really bounce anything back but that Shirahoshi So he's going to start out with a Jozu. Going to see with the Jinbei if there's anything good to grab. There is a Weevil that you could use. Weevil is a great card, right? Be able to combo with that. Jinbei is a combo that we keep seeing again and again if you've been playing in the game for a little bit now in the last format or two. The Doflamingo is going to think about now just swinging a Bear 5. Going to see if they give a counter card or take this life, and is going to go ahead take this life. It is a trigger. It's a Frankie. You do get to play that Frankie down and draw one card. Going to be a very nice trigger to get off of that 2 life. Kind of your ideal second, like 2 life left trigger to get, because you get to play a 5,000 power body and draw a card, which is so strong. So plays another guy down real quick to look at that top 5. We'll see exactly what he decides to do. It is going to be that Perona to look at the order, so we'll see what he decides in this order, right? Might be thinking about playing the Jinbei from hand and then using leader effect, right? That could be something very interesting. I saw another Jinbei in there. You don't really have another good combo piece that you want to use, so how would you order this? What would you play from your hand? Could do that Trafalgar Law to once again pick up something like the Frankie. You don't really want to give the 2K in the Enel's hand, but Enel's survivability is a little bit stronger than yours because of his ability to get rid of characters, pop them off the field. So do you keep that guy around is the real question. Decides to put it at the bottom of the deck. I didn't realize that at first, but going back, putting it at the bottom, just didn't really like any of those cards that he saw. Wants to try to maybe do something else within this turn. So he's kind of in a really interesting spot, especially with this Enel. You gotta imagine that 10 drop ace is coming in this next turn, sticking at the life. Do you swing anymore? And decides to go ahead, play the Law, pick up the Perona, and pick up their own Sengoku, right? Getting those couple cards in hand. Now, if you go ahead, play the Jinbei, you're going to be able to keep the counter cards, right? And fill up your entire board with 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 power characters. So, does decide instead to use the Perona as they were playing that as I was taking a drink. The Perona going to be looking at that top 5, going to be looking at a couple different cards. Does find a Perfume Femur, right? Perfume Femur, going to be great if you decide to put this Shirahoshi into the field. You do see a Pudding as well. Pudding very, very nice within this deck. You'll love to see that, especially against an Enel. Great for resetting a big hand that Enels love to grab. But decides to pass off the turn, not do anything else with the 3 Dawn right here. And we're going to see the Enel. What do they want to do? I think, do you want to play the 5 drop down, or do you want to go ahead play the Nami? It looks like they are going to go ahead play a Nami, pitch some cards to get rid of this Weevil. Might go ahead with a double Nami turn, right? With 10 Dawn going in now, just taking away the Gecko, and decides to use Electromagnetic Cannon to take out that Gecko. So clearing the board like crazy right now. Again, still holding on, still not swinging. Going to force them to once again fill up the board, and a couple cards go away now, especially because you got rid of those 2 characters, right? The Weevil, the Gecko. Do you want to play this Pudding now at this point? The Pudding doesn't provide you a ton of advances on the field. You would still be able to play a Jinbei Weevil to fill right back up, right? But can they go ahead with a resetted hand, right? Go in and pop more targets. That's going to be the real question that he's got to think about right now. You could go in with like a Jozu, pop back the Perona, reset the hand, play the Pudding, right? You could get that Frankie back into the hand and then back into the deck as well that you've got on the field, so that 2K gets a body off the field, right? Controls the board a little bit, a lot less swings potentially coming at you once you start to stall a little bit, and is going to go ahead play the Jozu. So we'll see if he puts back the Frankie, like I was saying, gets that back and decides with the Nami. So might play the Pudding right here. I think that's a perfectly fine play right with that. Whether you do the Nami or the Frankie, just all depends on what you prefer, right? I would have It depends. Would you have wanted the life, random life, right? Especially off of leader effect to be the Frankie or the Nami. And I think maybe Nami just gives you a little less value, right? Because the Frankie allows you to be played down and then also draw a card on top of that. So it's a body and a card, whereas Nami is just kind of a card. And now going into 2 Katakuris, right? Katakuri going to be interesting in this if they decide to play it down. Do you go in with the Nami? And it looks like Katakuri is going to be the play. Going to put that Jozu in life. If they find any more Yamato, is going to be able to get rid of literally anything that they want at any point. And although this Doflamingo has plenty of cards in hand, kind of looks like stalling a little bit in terms of this match, right? Feels like some of these plays that they're trying to make just get harder and harder. No swings. You're going to keep all that counter in hand. When's the time to play that Jinbei Weevil that you've got right there? It is going to start out swing 5. It is going to go in now with the swings, especially after that pudding. Is going to go ahead, take a life, put the Raigo away. Does find a Yamato. Yamato going to be very, very nice, especially if any of these characters go sideways. And now you got to swing with the Law and the pudding, right? You went ahead, you gave them a free card cycle. At this point, you're going to have to start asking for a couple different cards. You could go in, swing 5 with the Law, try to get a card or block with the Shirahoshi, swing another 5 or 6 with the pudding, and then go in pretty quickly with the Jinbei Weevil and other... Oh no, you don't have another Weevil. You could play the Boa instead if you want, just to reorder a little bit, maybe put Arrested Dawn somewhere on that pudding if you want, to maybe go in and swing 7 or maybe like 6/6 with the Law and the pudding. It's kind of a breaking point at this point, I feel like, in this game, and goes attaches 2 to swing at life with that 6. It's just going to be a 2K there. You love seeing just a regular 2K getting out. I mean, you would have loved seeing 2 1Ks, but that's a card out of hand right now. Enel will slowly potentially lose cards in hand, especially if you can keep up with these bodies. So I do think he's thinking about that Jinbei Weevil play into Boa, and then with that Rested Dawn, is just going to go ahead and swing the 5 now. So does take that life, is going to go ahead, trigger another Frankie right here, and draws a 2K beige. You don't have any life, but you know that there's no rush characters within this deck. There's no more swings potentially available in this turn. So you're comfortable taking that life, get that Jinbei, playing down the Boa as well. Going to be going in and looking at that top 3. Going to be really nice for the Weevil potentially coming down on this and draw the card that you put on the top. Going to be putting that Perona in hand and passing the turn. So the Enel, even at 0 life, still a destructible force going on. And here come the swings, right? Going to swing at that pudding. Going to take that knockout. Probably going to swing the Frankie, I think, at the Law. But with the 9 is going to play that Yamato, take out the Boa, and now is going to gain that life. Now can go ahead, swing at this Law without any fear with a free block on the Boa. Is going to go ahead, swing at that, and gotta think, do you want to give up a card now? Now this is going to be a war at this point, and the Enel is sitting at a great position, decides to let him take it right away and stops swinging. Doesn't even swing with the leader at this point. So now with the Doflamingo, you just got to keep swinging at this point. You just got to keep taking life. You just got to keep hoping and grabbing different cards out of their hand. Maybe thinking with the Perfume Femur right now, maybe thinking there may be a world where he could actually go for game, right, if they don't decide to block with the Shirahoshi. He's going to go in though, look for a Sengoku, going to be looking at that top 5. What is he going to grab with 9 Dawn left? Looks like it's going to be a Weevil. Maybe thinking about playing that guy down on this turn. So is going to put the rest bottom of the deck, put the Weevil in hand. Do you decide to just start swinging at this point? And also, as the Enel, could be really interesting with knowledge of potentially Perfume Femur available. When do you take life? When do you stop taking life? When do you block? Things like that. So testing the waters with a quick 5K swing is going to quickly go ahead, and it's a 0 cost event. That was one of the worst possible triggers that you can get, because now you don't really go for game at this point. And now going now up to 2 life because of the trigger is going to go ahead. When you put away a 2K beige, right, from one of the potential triggers, you know you're just in a bad spot. So now cannot go for game. Do you decide to go for the Frankie? Is going to go ahead, slap 4 down, is going to go, I think, play the Weevil, just build up a body, draw a card, see what he can get. Does find a Jinbei. So Jinbei could be nice, but what do you have to play alongside it right now is the real question. Do you play that 4-drop Crocodile? The 4-drop Crocodile is kind of cheeky because the 4-drop Crocodile would be able, with that Rested Dawn, to pick up your Sengoku, and now you've got that counter back in hand, and now you just pass it off back to the Enel. So the Enel, having the 8-drop Katakuri, is thinking about maybe what they want to put in life. When do you start swinging now at the Enel? Is going to go ahead, attach to swing 7 with the Frankie. Now is going in at life. Does have 8 Dawn left, maybe making him think with a 7 early that not going to be using any Dawn else for the rest of it. I would say go ahead, swing maybe your 9s with the Yamato at this point. Don't commit anything. Don't try to reveal any further information, right? But goes ahead, swings Katakuri first, so takes that life as well with the Yamato. Now freely taking all of this life, right? When do you stop taking life? That's the real question. I don't think you're afraid of losing in this turn, right? I don't think it's possible, especially since 2 Dawn was used for the Frankie. But to counter out, you're going to have to defeat a lot of characters on this next upcoming turn, especially now that all of them are sideways. So now attaches the rest to Enel, so doesn't go ahead and use the Katakuri. Very interesting. Just goes in, Perfume Femur, potential trigger, right? Would be a draw 1 card, could be nice, but how much does that actually help you, right? Does that reveal too much information? Because if you use that, that must mean that you have another one in hand, right? So is going to go ahead, take their turn, 1 life left, lots of cards in hand, lots of counter, but not looking good. Enel just doing a great job in this game and having a little bit of luck as well, right, on those triggers to be able to kind of steamroll. So is going to swing at that Frankie. Don't want to commit any counter to that Frankie. I think at this point you want to save the counter for potentially saving these bigger bodies that's going to help you push for game in the incoming turns. Is going to go ahead, match the Katakuri, swing 8. Just going to be that Shirahoshi swing, or I'm sorry, that Shirahoshi counter as that 1K. So you got 3 swings left that you do have to worry about. It's going to be hard to push for game on, though, I feel like, as the Enel. You do have a good start, right, with all of these different big bodies, these 8s, these 9s on the field, but that's also a lot of counter in hand. So how much of that is counter, how much of it is not counter? That's going to be the real question. You haven't really seen too many Boa Hancocks revealed in this one. So swings another 8 and a quick 1K counter out. Does still have the Shirahoshi block if that doesn't come off of the field, as well as the 2K X-Drake. There is a Boa blocker that you could play, right, to kind of end the turn, but thinks of swinging 5 just at lead, is going to take it. So decides to grab that life. Looks like it's a 10-drop ace. Oh, that feels so bad. But now is going in with the Sengoku. Going to try to find a counter card. Does find 2K Crocodile. Is that the 4th 2K Crocodile I believe that we've seen in this match? And now go ahead, end the turn with a Boa Hancock. Is going to relook at that top 3, put a Rested Dawn somewhere, maybe on this Jinbei, swing another 7 potentially. Is going to put that on top, the Dawn going to leader, and passes the turn, decides to keep the Jinbei up. So now we move into the Enel. So now the real question is, you definitely go in with the 10-drop ace, right? At this point, you have 1 life left. You would go to 2, and then you have a 9, 9, 8, 5. Now you start really pressuring at this point. Is going to be 1K counter off of the leader. Now go in with 8, I believe, now only going at lead now. So 2Ks of Law and Crocodile going to be getting out of that. Now with 9 is going to need to force at least 3 cards. But I think now going at board, now swinging at that Crocodile, and I would imagine this swinging at the Weevil, going to decide whether they want to block or counter. And it looks like use 2Ks to keep that Weevil alive. The 10-drop ace comes in, gives a life, now a 10,000 power swing at what I believe is the Weevil. How much counter do you actually commit into this? Do you keep, ideally you want to keep the Weevil and the Boa alive, and looks like maybe think about pitching almost the whole hand at this point. You've got a 10 that you need to do, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, only 5k encounter, so you can get out of it if you want. It would just be 5 cards and coincidentally all of your counter cards if you were to get rid of this ace swing, right? Saving that Weevil would put you up to 11. You would then, I would believe, probably have to try to push for game, I would say, and time the Perfume Femur just right. I think, honestly, I think you're dead if you, I think you're dead if it goes back to the Enel's turn, right? I think you have to win as Doflamingo in this upcoming turn, and the only way you can do that is, I mean, I believe the only way that you can do that is if you keep this Weevil alive. So I think it's worth pitching all of this away. I think you lose anyways if you can't get lethal in this next turn. So might as well just keep this guy alive. There's no more swings that are going to happen. And that's exactly what he's going to have to do. He's going to pitch 5 1Ks to be able to go to 11 and keep the Weevil alive. Is going to pass the turn. What was a huge hand at the beginning of that turn now sits as a mere 3 cards after the top deck. So does get that top deck for turn. What is it? It's a Martial D Teach. Not really going to help you, I think. And so how do you split these numbers? Only 3 cards in hand and a blocker Shirahoshi, but the blocker Shirahoshi is kind of your biggest problem. I think you can definitely go ahead and block just right away at the first swing, right, as the Enel. I think especially with only a couple of cards in hand, you're not worried at all in this game. You're not really worried at this turn. It would be more of a problem, I think, if the Shirahoshi got bounced back in any way, but with no bounce back potential from this Doflamingo, he's just going to have to go in and swing. The game more than likely going to be falling in Enel's way since we know both players' hands. Going to start out with just a mere 6 and a 2K is going to come out of that one. So now with the 4 swings, what do? You do need all 3 of these, I think, to connect. You need all 4 of these swings, right? Because with the Enel, it takes the 1, the 2, you get the leader effect, right? That's a 3rd life. And you need the 4th swing to go in and go through. So at any point, a block from the Shirahoshi, it's just game over. It's like your only hope using the Doflamingo leader effect to hit the 4-drop law to then put your Weevil back in hand to then put the Shirahoshi back in hand. Is that your win condition at this point? Is going to go ahead. It's just a Jozu. Got to stay there. Was halfway there. Was able to get a bounce back character, but the wrong bounce back character. And so just announcing block right there. Nothing the Doflamingo can do in order to win this game. The only thing that you can do, I think, at this point is just go in and blast these different big bodies that are on the field. But even then, with only 2 swings, right, because you want to keep your Boa alive, just going to be a concession right there. Sees the writing on the wall. The Enel player is going to advance into the finals of this championship. A very exciting showcase, I think. Very cool to see how it kind of managed that, and I believe is going to have to repeat in the finals of either Doflamingo or Martial D Teach in order to win the championship. But first, before we end this video, let's look at the players' deck lists. So this is at least pretty close. I don't know if this is the exact deck list of the Doflamingo player, but it's pretty close. We do know that there was a couple of these 2K counter laws. But yeah, this is the deck. I mean, it's pretty standard at this point in OP10, and even, I mean, in OP09, it looks like this. It's a pretty tight deck, I think, overall, what the players have gone to as a consensus in these high-level tournaments. The 7 Warlords of the Sea package is just so good, right? Your 4-drop slew in here of Boa Hancock, Trafalgar Law, Jinbei, Weevil is kind of the final 4 of the different guys, I would say, that see the most play, right? Gecko sometimes is slotted as low as 2. Dracule Mihawk, just a really good 2K alongside this Crocodile, usually 4-ofs in these decks. And other great cards that are 7 Warlords of the Sea or have good synergies with 7 Warlords of the Sea, including Martial D Teach, the Buggy, right? Also Perona, even though, and also Sengoku, not necessarily 7 Warlords of the Sea type cards, right? The Perona Thriller Bark Pirate, great for reordering for Doflamingo, right? A nice easy 1-drop, having multiple now 1-drops of restacking, reordering on top or bottom, and then Sengoku, even though a Navy type character, finds 7 Warlords of the Sea, and so finds a lot of your key pieces as we saw within that game. Perfume Fumer, usually a 2 of, I would say, in Doflamingo deck lists, and Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, something that's kind of on and off. Really good for the mirror match, as well as certain matchups in Marshall D. Teach, right? Getting rid of the Jesus Burgess. But oh yeah, this list not playing Jozu. So we know that this is a little bit different. If you're looking at what potentially is different in this list, I would say maybe take out Gravity Blade Raging Tiger and 2 of these Gecko Morias and just slot in 4 Jozus. Usually a really good card. Just one of the best blue cards, I feel like, in general, that we see more often than not in these Doflamingo deck lists. I do know, though, that this is the exact Enel deck list in this tournament. A very cool list with the additions in OP10 of the Electromagnetic Cannon and also the X-Drake, right? 2 really good cards that are included in this deck list. Joreshi, we saw a little bit showcased in that one and how good that can be in order to get different great cards like the You're the One That Should Disappear, anything with a trigger really, which is so much of this deck. And a card that hasn't seen play yet, Lucy. Lucy, going to be a great card at some points with that when attacking, of being able to rotate life. Is a great 6-drop that is very hard to deal with a lot of different decks. This was a very cool list to see in the couple different tournaments that we've had so far, and very good in general, but we still have a little bit more to go. The finals is going to be a Doflamingo Enel rematch, so we'll see if lightning can strike twice in these championships. Thank you so much for watching. The video will be up soon. Again, apologies on the delay for the rest of this tournament. Just finally kind of got back into the swing of things in my normal routine schedule, and now trying to get these before I go home for Christmas break. But hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.